Howdy, folks. I'm inquisitive iodine, intelligently inciting ingenious ideas.
I'm Amber.
And here are more ingenious ideas for us to incite. Alright, let's get started. Our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Humiliating My Cousin in Front of Our Family and Kicking Him Out of the Wedding Venue? I got married on Saturday. My husband and me. We planned the wedding together for a span of a year and a half. We wanted something special and had a lot of friends from overseas. England, Scotland, South Africa, Colombia, Argentina, etc., etc. We invited 83 people. Of those, 32 were family and the rest were friends. My cousin brought his girl of 3 years. I do not know this woman very well, so I have neither anything against her nor do I like her. I am, or was, indifferent. The ceremony went by as planned. We cried, my parents cried, his parents cried. We had a little champagne reception before diving into the wedding venue. Anyways, time goes by, we eat, and we do the toast. Photographer comes by to inform me that he saw my cousin practicing a proposal. Me, not wanting to escalate this situation, sent my maid of honor to tell him that he shouldn't propose at my wedding. She goes, she tells him, and he seems to get it. Until it was time to toss the bouquet. She didn't even catch the thing. My Grammy did. But when I turned around, my cousin was walking towards his girlfriend with another bouquet, telling her that she is next, and then goes on one knee to propose. My family was cheering, and everyone else looked deeply uncomfortable. His girlfriend cries and jumps, and my cousin turns around too, and I kid you not, tell the DJ to play their song. Before anything else could happen, I snatched the microphone and I began giving a speech. I don't remember it fully, as I felt rage taking over. So here is the gist of it. But I said something like, congratulations to Mike and Random Girl that I've never seen. May your marriage be as selfish as what you have just done. I see you guys don't care about happiness of anyone but yourself. Even after asking you not to do this, you decided what you wanted was more important. Random Girl, I hope that you didn't have any sort of boundaries that misaligned with Mike's, because he's going to bulldoze yours like he did with me. Mike is going to do what Mike is going to do. F you, Mike, leave. I was crying by that point and sobbing. I informed the venue security to escort Mike and the Random Girl out. When I came back, my aunt and other cousins were gone. I managed to enjoy the rest of the evening after that, and we went on a little spa weekend. When we came back today, we saw that our friends absolutely blasted Mike, but I also got a lot of messages saying that I went too far by humiliating him in front of strangers. I feel like I am swallowing crazy pills. Am I the jerk? Alright folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
No, I don't think he was the jerk here. I mean, first of all, we all know you don't propose at someone else's wedding. Then, on top of that, he was even explicitly instructed, don't do this.
Yeah.
I mean, he was 100% being selfish and only thinking about himself. And so I think it was just desserts.
You know, I think that in this particular case, OP was probably emotionally charged. There's a lot of things that happen in a wedding. It's a very emotional time. And it's kind of a powder keg, right? So if you go ahead and do something like this, then you can be expected to meet some kind of fiery end, right? I mean, it's just like, what do you expect to happen under such an emotionally charged situation? So I really don't blame OP for their actions here, just because of how this event was and how much it meant to her, and she felt like somebody had come in and started ruining her day or taking the spotlight away from them. And right or wrong, I just don't think that in this particular case he met the expectations that she had set out. She explicitly informed him not to do this, and he violated that boundary.
Well, and how uncool is it to steal a party that someone else spent a good chunk of money on, like, and try and make it all about you? And like he was literally trying to commandeer their DJ and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's just really gross. And so yeah, I don't blame OP.
Yeah, and I really think it's unfortunate the family is trying to defend Mike here. And I mean, I know that maybe OP humiliated him, but maybe he deserves a little humility for what he's done.
Exactly. Like, he needs to know that this behavior is not acceptable, and so he deserved to be blasted.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Rub's t-shirt says, what a nuclear response. Mike definitely deserved it though. Info, you said that you're no longer indifferent to this girl. How come? This seems like no fault of hers. And Opie replies, yes, I will clarify. She was really excited, which, okay, maybe she thought my cousin had talked to me first. It's afterwards. She kept sending me DMs, calling me a petty bee, that I can't handle it if the spotlight is taken away from her for 30 seconds. That I ruined this for her, etc., etc., etc. And Historical Agent 9426 says, you ruined this for her. This stranger showed up at your wedding and now calls you petty for shutting her down the attempt to hijack it. Yeah, no, send her a link to this post. Heck, post screenshots of the messages on social media and tag her so all the friends and family can learn what a tacky person she is. It's telling that Mikey didn't pull this nonsense with anyone that she knew. And Opie replies, yes, she said that I ruined their engagement. And I'm getting like 3 DMs an hour of her or Mike complaining. They even sent me a bill for the engagement ring.
Alright, turn around and send them a bill for the wedding since they interrupted it.
Yeah, I mean, I think turnabout is fair play here. A bill for the wedding. Alright, folks, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Calling Off My Engagement Over a Dog? Alt account because my ex-fiance knows the handle to my main. For some context, I'm a 24-year-old female and I've been dating my fiance Todd since early 2021. He has been an amazing person since the very beginning. We met at my job where he started becoming a regular and eventually asked me out. Todd isn't a huge fan of animals, unlike me, but this was really never a problem because he got along with my dog. I've had my dog since a little before I graduated high school. I volunteered at a local shelter when she came in, a shy, emaciated young beagle puppy, Nala. She wasn't doing well at the shelter, so I offered to foster her, and, well, the rest is history. I moved out of my dad's house when I turned 18, and other than the essentials, she's all I brought with me when I was thrown into adulthood. I got a cheap apartment, and after that, it's just been me and her ever since. I don't believe that it would be an understatement to say that I love her more than anything. Todd knew all of this. Recently, I found out that I was pregnant, about 2 months along. Todd seemed to be more and more agitated with Nala since then, even asking if I would consider rehoming her. I said no, and I explained that I was worried about her not eating. She has some pretty bad separation anxiety. We got into a huge argument about it, where he began to complain about her fur being all over and about the way she always sits at my feet when we do things and how I let her on all of the furniture. It's my apartment. I bought all of the furniture. He also went so far as to say that would be a terrible mother and neglect her baby if I don't get rid of her. We went back and forth for a little while, and by the end of it, he was just kind of really silent. I assumed that that was the end of it, and I went to our bedroom to calm down and sit a bit. Nala followed me into the room, and I sat with her on the floor for a while and just sort of thinking about things. We didn't talk for the rest of the night. The next morning, I went through my routine and I put Nala in her pen. Todd goes to work earlier in the morning than I do, and then I went to work. When I came back, she was gone. Her bed was gone, her toys were gone, and Todd was gone. At first I was panicking. I thought someone had stolen my Nala. I searched the whole house. And then I called Todd. He didn't answer. I called maybe 15 times before I gave up. At that point, I was starting to think a little more clearly and noticed that all of her things were missing. Her toys, her treats, her pen, her leashes, even her box of winter things that sits on my bookshelf. Then I was angry. Todd is the only person who has a set of keys to my apartment other than me and my landlord, and my landlord adores Nala. I angrily texted Todd a paragraph demanding my dog back or I would call the police and began calling shelters to see if I could find her. I had no luck. Todd then read the messages but didn't reply, only to come home about an hour later angrily shouting at me as soon as he came in. This quickly led to another screaming match where he broke one of my picture frames and I threatened to call off the wedding and still call the police. I eventually managed to find out that he had given my dog to his cousin who lives in another state. He brought up again how I would be a terrible mother and how he needed to do this for our family and that I was only being difficult because I was pregnant. I told him that I no longer had a family and to get out of my apartment. That was 2 days ago. I've been crying ever since, and I'm working on getting his cousin to give me my Nala back. I blocked Todd on everything, but now his family won't stop harassing me on everything. And his mother is threatening to sue me for the money that they put into the wedding. There is still time for them to get a refund. They've only paid for catering. I'm really upset right now, but am I the jerk for how I reacted? Edit. I should have specified, but I wrote this while I was worked up, but I did file a police report. They aren't being too helpful about it at the moment, but they said that they would try to contact police departments in another state. Update. Kind of. Thanks a lot. A lot of the advice is super helpful. I'm talking to the police and Todd's cousin, but I also did reach out to his family. Apparently Todd had told them that I was a scammer, that I had taken the money for the wedding and was planning to divorce him for his money afterwards. He also claimed that I was neglecting my dog, and that's why he gave her away. She's super nervous when I'm not around, so I'm worried that they might believe him. I did send his parents a nice lengthy set of screenshots of all his vile things that he texted me, and a few voicemail recordings. His mother apologized and claimed that she would handle him. I've always been pretty close with his family, so I was also pretty upset with them with the way they reacted after I called off the engagement. Now I understand why. I am changing all of my locks, and I already have a Ring doorbell on my apartment, and I'm going to get more cameras. I do hear you though. I'm honestly not sure about bringing a baby into this mess. Thanks again, and I'll update you once I've got my fur baby back. Alright folks, what do you think?
I mean, I definitely think Opie is not the jerk here. This was a horrible thing for her ex to do. I'm glad that she dumped him. I think that's important. He is not a good person. He's really shown how bad a person he is
Yeah.
now. And yeah, I just hope she's able to get her dog back and that his family cuts him off or something, like, because this is despicable behavior.
Oh yeah, I just cannot believe this. Like, who does something like this? He kidnapped their dog and then drove them to another state to give them away, and then lied to the family about the reason why they broke up. This is just absolutely nonsense. I think he was just expecting OP to roll over and just accept it, but yeah, I mean, this dog is very important to OP, and I can't blame. He probably just didn't expect her to be this as like caring, which baffles me.
Well, I mean, he thinks too highly of himself. Like, obviously, he is most important, and if he just gets rid of the dog, she has no choice but to just accept it. Which, yeah, the logic there is baffling.
Yeah, and then his whole she'll be a bad mom for having a dog. Lots of parents own dogs.
I know he never wanted a dog to begin with, and I think this is his sticking point because they would probably have to move in if they're raising a baby together, and he doesn't want to live with a dog, it seems like.
Well, it seems like he's living there, doesn't it?
It seems like he's spending a lot of time there, yeah, but since Opie is saying that she owns the apartment, I'm wondering if he has and he has keys to it, but it sounds like he has his own place too.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little unclear about that. So it's good if OP was actually not living with him, because that's going to make this whole process a lot easier, because evicting evicting people is a difficult process, but if he actually doesn't live there, then there's no eviction. He's just an unwelcome guest. So I really feel bad for poor OP in this situation. They found out in a really hard way how terrible their partner was. And again, this is kind of how abusive situations start, where it doesn't necessarily, I mean, it doesn't immediately escalate to this point, right? But it's the little tiny things where, this tiny turns a little bit at a time, and he just happened to show his whole hand all at once here. So I am just really glad that OP is safe, and I hope that she's able to get Nala back. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she's got a joke.
Did you enjoy the movie, Godzilla? I don't know, I stepped on the theater before it started.
Yeah, I mean, that would put a damper on the whole theater experience for the patrons. Poor patrons. Not so poor Godzilla. But maybe he was really looking forward to the movie, so I don't know. And I have licorice spice. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Tuesday, spelled T-W-O. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it in the form of things not to do at a wedding.
Don't propose.
Yeah, unless explicitly told that you can. But yes, in general. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.